So things have been just a little bit interesting lately when it comes to Derwood. It's been a bit of a progression of things. So first of all, we hear news that he's had an argument with Janie and Daniel, or a falling out, let's say. It started out with Janie coming out on someone's chat in their live stream and saying, "No, I never said that I heard anybody," on the day that the children allegedly went missing. And so Derwood's like, "Yeah, she's lying. She told me this." And then around the same time, you have him saying, "Hey, you know what? Brad Wong's telling the truth. I believe him. I believe that he heard that car." Next thing, we're hearing that he allegedly turned up at the house at Gerlock Road and had a bit of a yelling match with Janie. And then Daniel was apparently too scared to come outside. And Derwood apparently told him that he was not to go anywhere near Jordan out at Foxbrook. And then, of course, we get that post on Facebook where he's basically saying the person behind the majority of the fake accounts is the person responsible for what happened to the children. And he has Daniel Martell, but it's all kind of covered in stars and stuff like that, but it's really obvious that's what he's doing. Around that time, a lot of people were making the comment, it's like rats leaving a sinking ship. And then last week we get this phone call that is released. It's played on Shenanigans channel, and her and AB were having a discussion over it. This was a phone call between him and Sonny Austin. Now, if you've been following this case from the beginning, then you know Sonny Austin is It's a Crime and Shame, the YouTube channel. Now, I was going to do a reaction discussion of this phone call, but first of all, I wanted to take some time to process it all and do a little bit of research. But also, I wanted to wait for a clean version to be released, because from trying to listen to it on Shenanigans channel and AB's channel, or I think it was just Shenanigans channel, as someone with ADHD, I find it really, really hard to follow something when you're trying to listen to audio and people are talking over the top of it. There were a few times when, after talking over the audio, they did actually go back a little bit so you could hear what was actually said, but the majority of the time they talked over something and I wasn't really catching it. I was so busy getting annoyed at them talking over the audio that I was missing a lot of the information that was coming out. So I ended up actually only listening to part of that audio because it was just doing my head in. Now, I have huge respect for both those channels, and I'm not saying that they're bad channels or that they do bad content. But for me, from the perspective of someone who has ADHD, I found that content extremely difficult to listen to. Now, I was able to get hold of a raw version of the audio, but I was asked not to release it. However, with AB having released his own version, clean version of the audio yesterday, then I thought, okay, well, I might as well use what I've got. So I'm going to dig into this Derwood audio, the phone call with Sonny. Now, I've got my thoughts on what's going on here, but I'm not going to share them till I finish going through all this audio, because I actually haven't properly listened to this audio. I downloaded it when it was sent to me, and then I put it in a video and edited out all the swearing. Or I hope I edited out all the swearing. And AB, before you jump in and accuse me of being OCD and nitpicky, the reason I edited out the swearing is because I don't want to be penalised for putting out a video that has swearing in it, as in not be paid for this video. I know people are like, "Oh, you guys are making money off these children." Trust me, for a channel my size, it doesn't even come remotely close to paying me for the time that I put in to creating these videos. So yes, I did edit out the swearing because I still have bills to pay at the end of the day. But of course, when I'm going through a video and editing out audio like that, I do it at double speed because otherwise it's going to take forever. So I really didn't catch everything that was being said. I wasn't really listening. I was too busy focusing on listening for F-bombs and S-words. So I figure I'll go through all the audio first, and then when I've done that, I will discuss my thoughts. I will just say that in my experience, when someone lies that much, even if they turn around and say, hey, yeah, sorry, I lied, this is the truth, I'm not going to trust them. And I'm going to be still questioning whether what they're claiming to be the truth actually is the truth. And let's be real, accounts from locals are that this guy is not such a great guy. And I think the biggest question for me is, if this guy was supposedly playing Daniel all along, why was he making so many threats against people? Why was he coming out all over the place and defending himself and defending his story? Anyway, I'll come back to that when I finish going through all this audio. This won't be in one video, obviously, because the phone call itself is, I think it's about half an hour long. Now, before I jump in, I do need to thank those people who've been doing the super thanks and buy me a coffee. Thanks to you, I think I may actually be able to get myself my MacBook by the end of this month. But really, just thanks to everyone who is supporting my channel. I mean, at the end of the day, it is a huge support just for you to subscribe to my channel. So, thank you to everyone who has subscribed, because that is supporting my channel. If you're not subscribed, please consider doing so. It's free, and it's the best way of helping my channel. Plus, I'm not going anywhere while this case is still going on. I'm not walking away from Jack and Lily until justice is served and until they are brought home. So if you are following this case and you want daily videos about this case, daily discussions, then subscribing to my channel will make sure that you know every time one of my videos drops. And most of the time I do manage to do daily videos. So with that said, let's jump into this Derwood phone call.
We're not online or anything right now, right?
No, we're not online at all.
This private conversation right now, right?
Yeah, I was just at my computer working on screenshots.
I would appreciate it if you... Do you have a pen and paper?
Yeah, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
1 second, let me get paper. I know I got paper. Don't really use that. What is that anymore? Using paper.
No, I told you I'm the dinosaur and I'm never going to change.
Okay, I got a pen and paper now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Write my name now. This is my real name, Darren, D-A-R-I-N.
Is that how you spell it? Okay.
D-A-R-I-N.
Yeah.
My first name.
Yeah.
My last name is Geddes, G-E-D-D-E-S.
G-E-D-D-E-S? Okay.
Yep. Date it.
Okay.
The date is the 20th, right?
Yeah.
Date it. And
Okay.
what time is it? It's 20 after 10 here.
Yeah.
Put the time on it.
Yeah. 10:20.
Now.
So according to Charmaine, this was the 20th of August. I did email Sunny and say, hey, when did this happen? And she could remember. All she could remember was, hey, yeah, it was months ago. Now, obviously here, he's treating it like he's making a formal statement. But big problem, well, there's several problems with this. First of all, there's no witness. Secondly, he's not present with Sunny. So if he expected her to be writing this down and he's not present, then it's pretty much null and void anyway, because he's not going to see what she is writing. He's not able to sign it. However, you have this audio. Noti asked her, "Oh, it's not live, is it?" And she assured him it wasn't. But she didn't say to him, "I'm recording this." So he's asking her to write this information down. I think had she said, "I'm recording this," it is possible, I guess, that he may have not said anything. So I think Sonny was playing it safe. But he's acting like he's creating some sort of legal document, which we know he isn't. And let's be real here. He is dramatising this. He is making it out to be this big, big secret, and Sonny's this person that he trusts so much, and she's the person that's going to take down this stat deck. He's just really, really overselling the whole, "Oh, you know, this is me being truthful, and I want you to take down a statement from me, word for word." Now, if this was truly genuine, why not go and get a proper form? I've looked it up. In Canada, there is a proper form that you use if you're making a real statutory declaration, and you have to have it witnessed by the equivalent of a Justice of the Peace, and I've forgotten what it's called in Canada. But an official person has to witness your statement. You can't just ring up someone over the phone and go, "Okay, well, I'm going to make this statement, write down my name, make sure you get the spelling correct, make sure you get the date, and make sure you write down the time." That is overkill. He's contacting a YouTuber because he wants to make sure that it does come out. Now, Sunny's no fool. This is not the first case that she has covered by any means. She's, as far as I know, been on YouTube longer than I've been watching true crime. Way before I had a channel. She would have seen through all the things that Derwood was doing here. But he was buttering her up. He was trying to make her feel super important here. Like, "You know what, I'm going to tell you a secret. I'm trusting you with this." Translation being, "I'm hoping that you're gullible enough that you're going to take this statement, and then down the track when I signal you to do so, you're going to release it, and that way I'm backing myself up here." But again, it's more to it than that. Why go to a YouTuber? Because if you had to do a proper statutory declaration and you lied, then that's not a good thing. If you write a statutory declaration and you sign it and you have someone witness it, and you've lied, especially in relation to a case like this, then you can be in trouble legally. And they could use it against him in terms of charges for obstruction. He's doing this as an insurance policy. He doesn't want to go to police and tell them what he knows. He doesn't want to write a stat deck, because you can bet that not everything that he said in this phone call was truthful. This is someone who's suddenly decided they need to cover their arse. He's suddenly realised that he could get himself into a lot of trouble, and he thinks that Sonny is going to be his backup plan. Let's be real here. Sure, he keeps changing his story when people question it, but he's not added any new information to his story. Now, if he's coming out in August of this year saying to Sonny, "Guess what, I was just doing this to get information out of Daniel," why did he continue to come online and harass people who didn't believe his story? Why did he continue to come online and push his story? I think the simple answer there is that it was in his best interests to continue lying for Daniel. Now, I'm going to come back to that. Like I said, when I finish going through all this, when I wrap it all up, then I'm going to share some more thoughts on this.
I am. Go ahead.
Okay. Now, please write this down as a private statement from me to you, and you do not put this out, please.
I won't. If you ask me not to, I will not.
Okay. I trust you.
Well, I trust myself, and I'm not one of those people. I don't do stuff like that. I don't play games with people, and I don't throw them underneath the bus.
Now, Sunny has told us that she's been in customer service for something like 30 years. It actually makes her perfectly suited for dealing with someone like Darren Geddes, because she knows how to handle him. And she's not falling for what he's doing. So he's telling her he wants her to do it word for word. It's a private statement from him, and don't put it out. I trust you. Again, this is an attempt to control her, because they're not friends. He doesn't know Sunny well enough to know that he can trust her. What he is essentially saying here is that you're going to be a really bad person if you leak this, because I'm going to make you feel guilty in front of all this by saying I trust you. Now that I've said I trust you, I'm locking you in. And you're not going to turn around and share it because you're going to feel bad, because you think you're betraying my trust. In other words, he's guilting her into keeping his secret. And I hate to say it, but this is the sort of thing you would expect to hear from a criminal who is manipulating someone. He's bestowing this elevated status on her in order to control her. But like I said, Sunny's no fool. Now, when someone says to you, I trust you, the expected response is for them to go, yeah, and I trust you too. Sunny doesn't fall for that. Sunny says, well, I trust myself. It's subtle, and it may have gone over his head completely, but she's essentially signalling here, you have no control over me. She's saying, yes, I'm a trustworthy person, and I don't play games with people. Now, I don't know if that was her subconscious telling her to say, I don't play games with people, or if that is, again, her signalling him that she's onto him and she knows the game. But what she's done is him trying to go, I trust you. I'm elevating your status as a confidant. And for this reason, this makes you feel important. And so you wouldn't dare betray my trust, even though you barely know me and there's no motivation for you not to do so. And Sunny's essentially putting it back in his face and going, well, I'm a trustworthy person. I don't play games. But it's not her reassuring him that they've got any connection. I'm not sure I've explained that adequately, but I know there's a few listeners who are really good at explaining these sorts of things. So hopefully they'll jump in the comments section and explain it more clearly. I would suggest reading the comments.
So trust me on my word on this, please.
So after subtly signalling that she's not playing his game, but that she's a trustworthy person anyway, she's now saying, trust me on my word, please. Because obviously she needs to just give that reassurance, so she has to give him back a little bit of power, or he's not going to talk. So you've probably noticed, if you've listened to any of Sunny's content before, that one of the things she does is she constantly offers reassurance to the person who's listening. So you will hear her constantly throwing in a yeah or a right. She also will repeat to them what they're saying. So she's trying to put them at ease. And that's what she's doing in this next bit. She's putting him at ease. She's showing him that, yes, she's listening. And she's validating what he's saying. So he's going to keep talking because he feels comfortable.
I've been saying for a few hours now that I hit a dead end.
Right.
And that I'm done.
Yeah, I know.
Can't go any further. Well, it's not done.
Mm-hmm.
And you can write that down. This is not over.
Mm-hmm.
But what I have to say.
Okay, when I listened to this on Shenanigans channel, I thought that scratching sound with the pencil was them taking the mickey out of the whole situation. But it's not. It's Sunny sitting there and scribbling. I mean, surely she's not actually writing down notes given that she's recording the conversation at the same time.
I've been defending Daniel quite a bit because of things I found out about him, and I've corresponded things with him. So you can if you can write. I've been defending Daniel.
Yeah.
And promoting Daniel.
Yeah. I know.
How? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
To gain someone's trust, you have to get close to them, right?
Absolutely. I know the games. Yeah.
Okay, so first of all, he says, I've been defending Daniel quite a bit because of things I found out about him. Now, he's not saying I've been pretending to defend Daniel. He's saying that he has actually been defending Daniel because of things he found out about him. That's the first red flag. That is the first sign that this is basically his backup plan. He's in this for Derwood. But for some reason, he needs to support Daniel in this until the point when his neck is on the line, and then he won't, which appears to be about now. Note, he also says, I've been corresponding things with him. Not I've been corresponding with him, but I've been corresponding things with him. What he's essentially saying, by saying corresponding things as opposed to corresponding, is that he's telling us that he's been feeding information to Daniel. I think we can guess, given that he's Paddy's cousin, that the information he's been feeding to Daniel relates to Malaya and her family. If he truly thought that he was trying to do the right thing and gain justice for Lily and Jack, why would he be sharing information with the person responsible for whatever happened to them? And he makes it clear in this phone call, when you listen to it, he makes it so clear that he has no doubt that Daniel was responsible. There's that one zinger later on in this phone call where Sunny catches him by saying, if Daniel is responsible, where are they? And Derwood doesn't go with, well, I don't think he is responsible, but, maybe they could be. He just straight out comes out and says where they are. He doesn't say he thinks, he says where they are. So it seems to me that he's in on this with Daniel. So him saying he's been corresponding things with him, he's selling out his own family. So he repeats he's been defending Daniel, and he says, and promoting Daniel. Now, one thing that really stands out to me here is the only time he really stutters is when he's basically asking if she's writing it down. You can, if you write it down. So he was struggling to tell her to write it down, but the rest of it was just coming out completely smooth. Now, we know that from day one, he was defending Daniel and he was promoting Daniel. And now he's saying, well, to gain someone's trust, you've got to get close to them, right? And Sonny goes, absolutely, I know the games, yeah. Again, I strongly suspect this has double meaning, because Sonny's no fool. So when she's saying, I know the games, she's saying, I know your game, as well as saying, yes, she knows how it works in terms of getting close to someone to gain their trust. So he's trying to defend himself by saying that The reason he's been defending and promoting Daniel is just to gain his trust. Well, you can gain his trust behind the scenes without coming out publicly and completely trying to destroy Malaya's reputation and that of her other family members.
Okay?
Yeah.
I believe there's going to be a huge turn in the road soon.
Okay.
And it's going to go almost exactly the opposite of the way that I've been saying online.
Absolutely. I agree.
Because I've been trying to get the trust of people
Yeah.
that are not good people.
Right there, he explains himself why it is he's contacting Sonny right now, because he thinks that things are going to turn around and that the truth is going to come out, and he doesn't want to be caught in the crossfire. Seems to me that this guy has spent his life backing the winning team. He picks the stronger side and aligns himself with the stronger side. And then when things start to change, he flips and goes to the other side once they start getting the upper hand. Yes, I've listened to a little bit of Sunny's 7-hour live stream, and I know that she disagrees with me on this. And she seems to see Darren as this genuine guy who's just being fooled by people. But I think that there is a somewhat cunning individual here. You can tell by the way he speaks that this is a guy who has spent his lifetime manipulating people. He can see that Sunny is empathetic, so he knows she's his best target in terms of finding someone to do this audio, to make sure that he's got this is his rescue plan. And, he's saying, I've been trying to get the trust of people who were not good people, and now I've got their trust. When someone manipulates the manipulators, you've got to be wary. And note here, he's not saying, yeah, now I'm going to distance myself from the situation because I found the information out and I don't want to be involved with these people. No, he's in there, in the mud, in his boots. Because, in my opinion, these are his kind of people.
Right.
And I've got their trust. And now...
Note the stuttering that's going on here. So he's trying to give the impression that he didn't have their trust before. But the way he's stumbling and stuttering over it says to me that these people are his kind of people. I wouldn't be surprised if he already did have those connections. We know. He has said that Daniel used to spend a lot of time at his place hanging out with Jordan. There's a lot of things that Derwood has said that actually seem to be truthful, but we're supposed to put them aside now when we're listening to this audio and believe that it was all a big act. And my question here is, if it was all a big act and he was trying to gain Daniel's trust, why were him and Kent Corbett taking Daniel out to lunch and hanging out with Daniel? I think Kent Corbett needs to come clean and start talking about the real reason why he inserted himself into this case.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to go after them.
Okay.
And this is going to turn.
Yeah, and this is going to turn on Daniel.
Pardon?
This is going to turn on Daniel, you mean?
Yes, it is.
Yes, right?
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
I think the translation of what is being said here is, as soon as things turn against Daniel and he realises that the gig is up, that is when he's going to go after them. Because we know he was still fiercely defending Janie and Daniel right up through to October or November or something, and still attacking people who didn't agree with what he was saying. He only started shifting his perspective when it reached a point where you could no longer deny the fact that Daniel is responsible for what happened to those children. It's only in the last month or so that Derwood has started switching sides and going after Daniel and Janie, because now he realises that if they go down, he's going down with them, unless he starts to back the other side. Now, there's a bit of audio that I was just listening to on that really long live stream of Sunny's. I haven't recorded it yet, but he's basically saying that it's a point in time when Malaya and her family are starting to come out and speak. And that's when he's worried about being thrown under the bus. So he even admits there that his concern is for himself. He is going to continue to align with whichever side has the upper hand. So now that everything is coming out big time in terms of Daniel, he's criticising Daniel and Janie, calling them liars, and even publicly saying that Daniel is responsible for what happened to the children. So saying way back in August to Sunny that, yeah, now I'm going to go after them, that was a lie. That was him hedging his bets so that if the following day something dropped and it was going to dump him in it, then he could say, hey, yeah, now I'm going to go after them. And look, I already told Sunny I was going to do it. But he did not do that back then. He was only saying it to cover his ass so that if things did flip, then he could say, look, see, I said I was going to do this, and he can go after them straight away.
Yeah.
Now, this is just my statement, and tell the people I apologize for some lies that I've had to tell.
Yeah.
To catch these people off guard.
I trust me on Darren, I totally understand 100,000% where you're coming from.
Okay.
We have to do the same thing at times.
Note how he says to Sunny, tell the people I apologise for some lies that I've had to tell. Tell what people? He contacted her specifically for the purpose of knowing that she's a content creator. As soon as he gives her the green light, she's going to release this. That's why he's saying, tell the people. This is him basically making sure that he can get this out there publicly. He thinks that when everything turns against Daniel, if he can get Sunny to release this, that this will save his ass because it will be out there in public. The thing is, though, when you are withholding information from an investigation, and then down the track that information comes out, and they know you were withholding that information, you cannot turn around and say, I told a friend about it, and they'll come and they'll tell you that, you know, I told them already, so you don't have to arrest me now because I was only doing it for the right reasons. No, you don't get a second chance. The fact that he chose to speak to a content creator instead of the RCMP tells me everything I need to know. This is all about Darren Geddes. This is not about Lily and Jack. This is not even really about supporting Daniel. This is about backing the winning team, and I do suspect covering his own ass. Now, I hope Sunny is just humouring him when she says we have to do the same thing at times. Because for me, morally, I'm not going to lie to people to get information out of them. I'm not going to align myself with someone whose standards I disagree with. I see no way that anybody can justify getting in sweet with someone who they believe is a killer, or getting in sweet with someone who has done something that is morally reprehensible. So I do hope that what Sunny is saying here is just her basically buttering him up and not actually saying that she does the same sort of thing. But, you know, if he's including his own family members in this, tell the people I apologise for some of the lies I've had to tell, then that's not genuine either. He needs to go and speak to them face to face and say, I lied for this reason and I'm sorry. I actually don't think he deserves to be excused for what he did, though. I know that there were some points when Belinda just didn't know what to think anymore because of this narrative that was being pushed so hard. In her heart, she knew these children were gone. And yet you had Darren pushing this narrative and getting aggressive with anyone that didn't believe the narrative. I just cannot imagine the sort of pain that this guy has caused people who dearly loved Lily and Jack. People like Belinda, Chaucer, other people in the Layers family. Because what seems to be forgotten in this conversation here is the fact that your choices impact other people. And while he's here going, oh, you know, I did it just to find out information, he really does not understand the impact that this has had on other people. He doesn't care about the impact that this has had on other people.
You know?
Now the reason, and the reason I'm making this statement to you is because when this does come out, there's going to be a lot of people turn against me for what I've been saying.
Right.
Online.
Absolutely. Okay.
Again, he's making it really clear. This is about protecting his own ass. This has got nothing to do with Lily and Jack. He's saying outright, the reason I'm making this statement is because when this does come out, there's going to be a lot of people turn against me for what I've been saying. This guy has spent the last 8 months playing everybody. And the thing is, him saying this, he's worried about people turning against him for what he's been saying. That's BS. He's not worried about people turning against him. He's worried about being arrested. He's worried about being implicated. Because from the first time that he came out spouting his ridiculous stories about Malaya putting the children in the car, there was a growing number of people who were criticising him and saying he was a fool, saying he was a liar. I mean, heck, I've been calling him dingbat pretty much from day one. So him saying that he's worried that when all this comes out, that people are going to turn against him. Most people already had turned against him. So this has got nothing to do with public perception. This has got everything to do with protecting his own arse. He's using Sonny to create his own alibi so that when the RCMP do come after him for obstruction, he can say, hey, guess what? Look, here's this thing that I did with Sonny. You can't say, I'll tell those people I'm sorry and I'm worried that people are going to turn against me, and then still continue down the same track, because that is exactly what he did. He couldn't be very sorry given that he kept going with this narrative for several months after this conversation. He couldn't have been too worried about people turning against him, because people were turning against him before this conversation even happened. Most people with a brain already thought this guy was a joke. So this is an outright lie.
And I want to have some proof that I think you understand now.
I absolutely do. I absolutely do.
Okay. And now, I so regretfully have to say that I'm now if you'll write this down word for word for me, this is how it is.
Okay.
If Daniel Martel is guilty in the involvement of the disappearance of Jack and Lily, they are dead.
Now, before he gets on to the bit about Malaya, I am actually going to replay that little bit for you in just a moment. But there's a few things that stands out to me here. When he starts with this statement, he says if, and then there's a pause before he goes on to say Daniel Martel is guilty. To me, that's him almost admitting, yes, Daniel is guilty. But the other thing that happens here is the big emphasis in that group of words, because it's not really a full sentence, because he continues. But guilty is the word that stands out to me. There is almost an emphasis in the way he says it. He is telling us here that Daniel is guilty, and he knows it. And then he says in the involvement, for some reason, that's sticking in his head. I think his brain is basically stuck on, yeah, Daniel is involved with the disappearance of Jack and Lily. Because he gets stuck on that and has to say it again. And then he comes out very definitively. There's no stuttering. There's no pausing. He just straight out comes with, they are dead. He knew Jack and Lily were deceased at that point in time. There's no fumbling around that at all. So he's basically told us here, yes, Jack and Lily are deceased. Daniel is responsible.
If Daniel Martel is guilty in the involvement of the disappearance of Jack and Lily, they are dead.
Absolutely, I know that they will be if he has any involvement, for sure. They are dead.
And I so apologize to my cousins Debbie, Patty, Cindy, Malaya, and Hayden. I'm so sorry.
Right.
Note how he says, I so apologise, and then he says, I'm so sorry. He genuinely knows these children are deceased. And it seems that he's admitting here, this is why he's talking to Sonny. I'm guessing he wants to get in sweet with his family again and show his family that allegedly he was only playing Daniel to get answers. But definitely the emphasis in what he's saying here is that he is trying to apologise. And I so apologise. So he's really pushing that. And I'm so sorry. I think he means that. In terms of not that he's sorry about what he did, he's sorry that Jack and Lily are deceased. But clearly he thinks that a thing that he's doing with Sonny is going to clear him with his own family, and that they will forgive him for standing up for Daniel and lying about Malaya, and even lying at the beginning about Cindy. Honestly, I love my cousins. I would do anything for my cousins. But if they lied so horribly, like he did, and if they sided with someone that had hurt or led to the death of someone in my family, I'd be really thinking twice about accepting their apology. It wouldn't matter if they'd been in my life from the day I was born. I have an uncle who did things that to me are unforgivable. And in my mind, he's gone. I have no intention of ever seeing him again, ever speaking to him again. Derwood has stood up for and sided with someone who is responsible for what happened to Lily and Jack. He is the reason they are no longer alive. So I would understand completely if his family didn't want to have a bar of him from here on in. And like I said, this is all very hollow. because this statement was made back in August, according to Charmaine, and yet it took him another 3 months to finally jump ship, because he was still on a good thing with Daniel and Janie. Unless he was upfront with those family members from the very beginning, then they have every right to not forgive him for what he did.
Now, did you get that okay?
Yeah, so let's see.
Now the second part of that, please.
Yeah.
If you got that okay. If Daniel Martel is innocent of the involvement of disappearing Jack and Lily, then the kids are alive.
Right.
And Malaya Brooks Murray is a goddamn hero.
Okay.
I find that pencil scratching in the background hilarious, because if he was listening, he would be able to tell that there are no pauses. You would hear you would hear momentary pauses between words, but it's just a whole scribble sound. It sounds like she's just sitting there with a pencil and just scribbling up and down on a piece of paper. Now, the first thing that stands out to me here is when he's saying if Daniel is guilty, he says is guilty in the involvement of the disappearance of Jack and Lily. That flows like reasonable English. It's essentially saying if he's guilty in the situation of Jack and Lily going missing. So in is appropriate there. It's a shortened sentence. But then when he says if Daniel is innocent, he said if he is innocent of the involvement of disappearing Jack and Lily. Grammatically, I'm just going to put it this way. That whole sentence has gone to crap. And of course, note also that there's a pause before he says are alive. He says then the kids are alive. So he can't even get that sentence out fluently, because he knows that's a lie. And I mean, just saying Malaya is a hero, what a load of tosh. Because what he's saying here is, well, if Daniel isn't involved, as in if people don't find out what he did, then we're going to go back with my original story of Malaya putting them in a car. He's hedging his bets here. He's giving away the truth in the way he says it, but what he's doing here is protecting his own back. He's essentially saying, well, if they actually figure out what Daniel did and that he's guilty, here I've told you this now. If they don't figure it out, we're still going to go with the story of Malaya putting the children in the car, and I'm going to be pushing the narrative that she did it for their own protection. So even though he's giving this statement to Sonny so that he's basically protecting his ass when things fall apart, just in case things don't fall apart, just in case they get away with it, he wants to make sure that the narrative about Malaya being a hero for removing her kids from that situation and hiding them, he wants to make sure that is in part of this statement.
If Daniel is innocent and the children and the kids are alive.
And the kids are alive.
Yeah.
And Malaya is a hero, and she really is, if that's the case.
She is so playing him like a fiddle there. Like pretending she's writing down and repeating what he said. I'm guessing she was doing that to slow him down and try and get him to elaborate a little more on why he's claiming that Malaya is a hero. But he didn't pick up on that. He just barreled on with what he was saying.
Now, third point, this may turn out to be that they're both involved.
Right.
That Daniel did something, and Malaya is so scared of him that she's scared to open her mouth against him.
Bingo, he's just admitted what the situation is here. Note he starts with, this may turn out to be. The other ones he's just presented as possible scenarios. The third one, he said this might turn out to be the actual truth. The way he is qualifying this one says to me this is a standout one for us. This is the one that he is essentially, without realising he's doing it. So he's telling us this is the situation. Daniel did something and Malaya's scared of him. And this ties in with what I've been saying for quite some time. People keep saying, well, you know, if Daniel's responsible, why didn't Malaya speak up and say that he did it? I think there's two reasons. I think one of the ones that I think Derwood's not going to admit to is that she is in some ways culpable. She had the opportunity to remove her children from that property back in March, and she chose not to. She sat back and allowed this guy to abuse her children for a number of years. So she is culpable and she knows that. And she also will have been aware of the campaign from Daniel and Janie, where they were really pushing hard about Malaya being a bad mother. They weren't sharing that for the sake of the public. They were sharing that for Malaya's sake, to make sure that she knows that if she speaks out about what Daniel did, they're going to come back out and say she allowed this to happen. This happened because she is inadequate as a mother. Malaya has never had to accept responsibility for her whole life. So to her, even that sounds frightening. She would not be capable of looking at it logically and saying that they actually removed that power from her. She would instead believe what they're saying, that this is her failing because she failed to parent her children adequately. So there is going to be that level of guilt that she feels equally responsible for what happened to her children. But I also strongly believe that she is afraid of Daniel. And we've seen intimidation tactics. He spoke about putting the mail in the trunk of her vehicle when they were at the CPS place. And he made it sound like, oh, you know, she overreacted to that. Bull. She read exactly what the intention was there. He said he went up behind her and he put the mail in the trunk of her vehicle. He did that to intimidate her, to remind her that, hey, I'm still around. He spoke about when he was getting to the CPS, he'd wait in his car for a little while because he didn't want to run into Malaya opening the door to go in when she was coming out. In my head, that sounds more like he made sure that he arrived at exactly the right time so that he was only just getting there in time for his appointment so that he could have that encounter with Malaya on the way in to remind her that he's still around. He said he got into trouble for parking his car next to her in the CPS car park because he didn't want to miss seeing Meadow because he couldn't get a spot close enough. I can't remember who it was. Somebody showed images of the car park at CPS. There is no way that he wouldn't have had other options for where to park his car. He deliberately parked his car next to Malaya's to remind her that he's still around. There's been instances when he's been speaking online where he's said things that to me sound like they were directed at Malaya as a veiled threat. He's been playing games for the last 8 months to keep Malaya quiet, in my opinion. And I strongly suspect that part of that is that he's got someone who is feeding information to her as well, someone who is keeping an eye on her for him. Note 2 though, he says she's scared to open her mouth against them. He's just admitted that this is not all just Daniel. He's just thrown Janie under the bus too, in my opinion. Possibly other people, but if there's a them, then we know that at least one of those people is Janie. So I'm going to wrap this one up here. I'm going to start tomorrow with Sunny's comment where she says it doesn't make sense because to me there's a lot to unpack about that statement. So I don't want to make this video too long. It's already close to an hour, so I will start tomorrow's video with Sunny saying that she doesn't think it makes sense because she would think they would stick together. From what I heard of Sunny's 7-hour live stream, seems like she's now giving Derwood credibility. Seems like she thinks he's believable. Seems like she's now attaching credibility to what he's saying. I cannot trust someone who came out so strongly and lied so much, and who is only now publicly changing their tune when we are reaching a point where you can see that even the way the RCMP is discussing the case is starting to shift, when it seems pretty clear that there will be an arrest. I can't help feeling that all this is about him trying to keep his own arse out of the clink. So I'm going to leave it at that for now. Thank you for listening. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe. Also, please hit that like button and please leave a comment below. So thank you, and I will catch you in the next one.